Hello and welcome to episode 96 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're a source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
Yep. Basically, we're just regular dudes drinking some irregular beers, talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
And we're back. Thanks for sticking with us. I was just shooting a movie the last few weeks, and it gets really hard to record because I have to be at work at 5:30 in the morning. So usually I try not to drink beer really late at night.
Yeah, luckily I was sick anyways a couple of weeks ago. Had some time to get over it this way without drinking beer late at night. So.
Perfect. It worked out, and it works especially out because the new set, The Brothers War, has just come to Arena, and so we get to talk about our first sips or our first thoughts on the set. Yes! One of my favorite episodes. Love these. But first, each week we both bring a beer. We drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, this week I've brought High Grass. This is a beer from Second Wedge Brewing Co. You might remember them from the past couple episodes we've done. And what really caught my eye about this is that it's a lemongrass ginger saison. Mm-hmm. So I love saisons. I think more people should make them. But there's people are a little hesitant about them, rightfully so, because some of them can get pretty funky, but as a general style, it's pretty amenable, and so I think people should sort of use it as their flagship more often. But all that aside, the lemongrass and the ginger is what's really cool here. Actually, maybe I should have been drinking this while I was sick. Make me feel better with all that ginger and lemongrass. I'm interested to see how this goes because it's a delicate balance here because these are powerful flavors that you don't want to overtake your beer, but at the same time it should taste I want to get that Thai sort of aroma and taste from the lemongrass and the ginger, so it has to be there, but it would be really easy to overpower your beer with ginger. So
I'm expecting it to be kind of like tea flavors, just with lemongrass. Ginger is a very common tea flavor, yeah, we'll see. Is this like a joke, High Grass? Is that like from, what is it, Jurassic Park, Lost World? Lost World? What's the second one? Where the velociraptors are in the high grass, and they're like, stay out of the high grass. Is that a thing? Maybe they called it tall grass. Anyway. That's the first thing I think about.
Too long.
I just think about velociraptors, but...
Remember that they're like a trail-based brewery or whatever.
Yes.
So it might be a term for in hiking.
Yeah, this is where you shouldn't go because you should be on the trail at all times. Don't go in the high grass because that's where things lurk and bite you, / you ruin the delicate ecosystem. Anyway.
That's right.
We have some Magic news. Like I said before, Brothers War came out last week, so we've had it for one whole week, which is awesome. The other cool thing that's happening right now is that on MTG Arena, instead of updating on Thursdays, they are now updating on Tuesdays. Now,
woohoo!
Yes, this didn't seem like a really big deal, probably to most people, but to us, this is extremely exciting because that also means that the weekly reports are on Mondays and we record our podcast on Mondays and then everything comes out on Tuesday. It's fantastic. I'm just so excited about this change. We said before, Wizards needs to listen to our podcast to know that we need them to change the way they do things, and they listened and they did. So got to give them props for listening to the consumers. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely all us that caused this change. So
it definitely was.
Thanks, Wizards.
The cool thing, though, is that means now that we will get the release on Arena earlier than before, where it's usually on Thursday, which is like a day before the set comes out. Now it's the Tuesday. Yay! So I'm very excited by that. As well as there are some sweet events that they had when everything got released. The midweek Magic, the day the set released, was Phantom Sealed, which is exactly what you want to have. That was awesome. It's like, hey, you don't have to pay anything, and you get to play Sealed and practice it. You don't get to keep the cards, but you can play the new cards without having any money in your account at all. that was
cool.
really nice. So we'll try to tell you more about those events as they come up because they're really fun. Free things are great.
Agreed.
Though, speaking about sealed, the Arena Open is going to be happening this weekend, November 26th and 27th. It will be sealed day 1 and then draft on day 2. But this is also just the beginning of a bunch of sealed events because then the qualifier weekend in December, the weekend is December 10th and 11th is sealed, and both of the play-ins are both sealed. So a lot of limited Magic sealed specifically for our bro set. So I guess play seals. Get better at it.
Now, Zach, have we double checked that it's Brothers War sealed? or is it Saga sealed?
It said Brothers War, yeah. So I don't think we're gonna have the weird shenanigans we had with the last Arena Open where it was Dominaria,
it's
just
Dominaria,
regular. But yeah, so it will be the Brothers War, which is really exciting. I don't know. It makes me more excited to actually play it because I would want to play a competitive limited event, usually more than constructed ones. But at the same time, I will probably be drafting more than sealed because draft you can pay with gold. Sealed you have to spend gems, so that kind of sucks.
I mean, generally what you learn in draft is it's like transferable to the sealed format. Mm-hmm. So you can draft a whole bunch and then right before the event play a couple of sealeds to like determine the pace of sealed versus draft. But like what cards are good and what archetypes are good is often similar.
The same. That's true. That's true. With that, Jeff, do you want to jump into the set? How does it feel for you? How are you liking it? How is it going?
Good. I want to say the first thing that really strikes me is I just think they did a great job with the flavor. Mm-hmm. Like when you play this set, it really feels like a war is happening, and this war involves like big robots smashing into each other and then humans just trying to do whatever they can to like survive this robot war. I think the art is really great. Like Magic art is also always great, but for whatever reason, this set, I find the art like style just really
hitting home. Very Dominaria feeling.
Yeah. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? Where it's like you feel like you're in it.
Immersive.
Immersive, yeah. And they just did a great job with it. So I haven't played as much of it as I want to, but I'm just like really enjoying. Like I have that. Sometimes you play a set and it's like, okay, I'm playing it because Magic is fun, and this set is also really fun for its own reasons.
Yeah.
So it would be one of those sets that I could see myself, even if it's actively bad, we find out the limited format sucks and like the cards are all busted for constructed, it still might have a place in my heart, as a set I like. Mm-hmm. But could be one of those.
Yeah, as opposed to other busted sets in the past that don't have a good place in your heart.
Like the exact opposite of Oath of the Gatewatch. It's the set I will hate no matter what. This one's like, I'm going to love this set even if it stinks.
Yeah. I will have to say, so far, it doesn't seem crazy, busted, broken in half like we've been worried about. Now, I don't know how long it takes to figure out whether it's busted in half, but right now, I feel pretty okay about it. I don't know.
I don't know.
I think the cards are good. Nothing seems so broken, but I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see.
I know that we have some time, and as soon as somebody finds that like good combination of whatever, the best card from it, it will emerge. I mean, like how long did it take us to realize Fable of the Mirror Breaker was really good after Kamigawa came out? So
yeah,
that
was a bit of an anomaly, but
yeah.
But
those things,
Goldspan or for whatever, was like, yeah, obviously this is the best card.
Yeah, but that will happen sometimes where you're like, oh, that card there's value, but it's not really that great, and then all of a sudden, paper copies are like $40 or whatever. So
yeah, I have this thing where there are cards that I think are great, and then they usually the community is right and they're just good or like decent. And that's what happened to me with Fable, where I was like, oh, this is one that I really like, but that's because of my biases towards these types of cards, so
Yeah.
I'm like probably the community is right on this one. I always look back when I do that and like I should have stood my ground a little more on liking this card. But
Yeah, it's really hard because, you can like things that suck. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly. Which I often do.
Yeah, me as well. Mainly me. I tend to like really.
Well, you like things that really suck.
Yeah.
I like things that are like okay.
But no, I've enjoyed Limited. I got to play a pre-release when it came out, which is a lot of fun, and some like drafts and sealeds. And I will have to say, I'm really enjoying this like cycle of common mill creatures in all the different colors, and so it like kind of enables all of your not aftermath, unearthed cards. That's from Amonkhet. But all your unearthed cards, as well as like bringing different card types back from the graveyard, depending on which color you are. That's been a lot of fun, and trying all the different reanimator shenanigans. All right, so Jeff, I have to tell you about a draft deck that I made today because it was so awesome, and I am still crying that I didn't get 7 wins with it because I don't know how I didn't win. I must have just been extremely impatient, or there's a lot more exile in the set than I thought there was. But anyway, I was able to. So I pack one, pick one cityscape leveler, and after that, I was like, all right, this is the game plan. All I'm gonna do is just try to play this card or try to reanimate this card and do that. And all the picks after that, I got 2 of the uncommon white reanimator card for artifacts and 2 of the black reanimator card for creatures. And then all my other cards were like either milling me or creatures that are 3 or less. And then I had the white-black legend that brings back creatures that are 3 or less. So they would come back, and it was just like mayhem. I was like, this is awesome. But I still lost to, like, I'll cast the leveler, comes into play, exile their best thing. And then 2 of the losses I had was because they exiled my leveler the turn it came down. It never attacked. I'm like, what? And then every other time I would put leveler on the stack, my opponent would just concede. So it was like, either if it lands on the battlefield, they're going to exile it. If it doesn't, they're going to concede. And it was just...
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Once upon a time, that's exactly the deck I would be looking to draft.
Mm-hmm. You can.
Now I beat down. So
Beat down? Well, I mean... There are like 4 reanimator spells in the set. I guess there's 3, and then one of them brings it to your hand. But it's like there's just a lot of stuff that's so good with graveyard things. I don't know. I'm fairly excited about white black in the set. So or black green. I never.
I feel like there's reasonable reanimator targets even at common and uncommon, like just big expensive stuff.
It's like. There's so many things that you can bring back because reanimating any of your huge artifact dudes is great. And you can play a bunch of them in the off-color ones in your deck because you can cast them if you get high enough. Because once again, all these artifacts that are sweet are better if you can play them in your colored decks, but you can still play them in your off-color decks and it's totally fine.
Yeah, like you can reanimate a Rust Goliath, the 10/10 reach trample for 10, and not even have it be a green deck.
Yeah.
Because your plan is to mill it over and reanimate it, right?
Because you only want to play the 10/10 side anyway. So, like, you're uninterested.
I don't want some stupid 3/5.
Yeah, you don't want that. I actually had someone play that card because one of the retro artifacts is Quicksilver Amulet. And so they went and tutored for that card, which bummer that's the card that they tutored. I mean, like, it's a good card,
they
but
don't
like,
have anything better.
If you tutor for something, I was like, oh,
I don't
shit.
know if I'd call it a good card.
It's not. But, I mean, it will kill you quickly because it has trample. But especially when they're... Yeah. It's not great. But anyway, it is that kind of thing where it's so fun to reanimate because finding a target is not too difficult.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job with that because we've been talking about prototype, how it's essentially kicker, but like the main difference here is that the bigger one is on the front end, and that plays differently with reanimator especially, and so they leaned into that to really make prototype feel different than kicker, because it's like you can't. Reanimating kicker cards sucks, but reanimating prototype cards is awesome.
Awesome, yeah.
And so they put 4 reanimator spells in the set because they recognize that. So I think that's really cool.
It's so cool. I'm all about it. It's been a lot of fun. I think this set has a lot of legs. I really liked the last one too, but I don't know. I'm just so excited. I say this every time there's a new set. I'm always excited about the new thing.
New draft formats are super fun.
Yes, that's true.
But I think this one is kind of special because it's just a lot of cool stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't actually had the chance to draft it yet, unfortunately. So let me run some stuff by you.
Okay.
You're a draft expert here.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
You tell me if what I'm saying jives with you. Okay.
Okay.
So I did some digging, did some data analysis.
All right.
By which I mean I went to 17lands.com and sorted by color.
Gotcha.
And it seems like, and poked around a bit on like different forums or like strategy websites, it seems like the strongest color currently at this early stage in the format is red. So I think blue-white soldiers was like 3rd best, but other than that, the top like 4 of the top 5 archetypes are red. So like all of the red color combos are at the top, and then blue-white soldiers like snuck into 3rd. But I think Boros was 1st, then Gruul, then blue-white, then it might have been Rakdos. Oh no, Izzet was pretty good. Izzet was like just under blue-white, I think. So there's 2 ways you can think about this. Either that just tells you red is the best color, or it tells you people are dirtling around with all these giant robots that cost 10 mana, and the aggro decks are just steamrolling them. And once people get more of a handle on the format and realize, all right, it's not a reasonable game plan to cast the Goliath for 10 mana. I have to
do other things.
Yeah, I have to commit to the board early. Because honestly, that's just the reality of modern day limited formats. You need 2 drops, you need 3 drops. The cards are just so good that it's so easy to fall behind. So you need to be affecting the board. But I don't know. Like it could also just be a sign that red is really good, and we should be watching out for red cards.
Yeah, that's interesting because when playing, felt like I was playing up against a lot of white-blue decks. White-blue and white-black.
And soldiers is like one of the big cool things, so I'd expect a lot of people want to play soldiers.
Yeah, because I also have there's a good place in my heart where Azorius aggro decks specifically, not so much control, but aggro, are decks I'm always interested in. So to me, that's been really cool. But I have seen some good red decks. I saw online somebody was talking about the Goblin, what's his face? Goblin Blast Runner, and saying how busted they thought that card was, which is the 1 mana 1/2 that if you sacrificed a creature, it gets +2/+0 and menace. Or sorry, if you've sacrificed a permanent that turn. So it's like it doesn't look good to me. It just seems like
pretty much Mayhem Devil.
No, it's not. It's not even like a little bit. And it just seems like so bad to me, but I guess it's got something going on. So that might be a card to look out for in some of the aggro decks if they're able to have good sacrifice strategies. But I haven't really run into it, though I did get obliterated by somebody with... they were playing this enchantment that when they played it, I just kind of laughed and was like, okay, whatever. It's the Mechanized Warfare, 1 red for each red or artifact source you control deals an extra damage to your opponent or a permanent. So, which is...
I just want to play that with Oni Cult Anvil, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean... 2 every turn, sign me up.
Like, that sounds really good. In this set, I was like, okay, they kind of attack a little bit better. But I ended up losing because they had Pendragon Strongbull, which is the creature that you can pay 1, sacrifice an artifact. It gets +1/+1, but it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And so every turn they would like make a Power Stone, and then they would just like they couldn't attack me because I had really good blocks, but they could ping me. They shock me in the face every turn or twice. So that ended up being the way that I died. So it wasn't this crazy aggressive steamroll obliterate me like that. It seemed to be, a little bit slower, but yeah, I will have to look out for that, and maybe I'll have to start playing red.
I think from the Rakdos side, like the Signpost Uncommon, the Junkyard Genius, that card seems insane to me. It's like enters the battlefield, it makes a Power Stone, and then you can sack a creature to give your creatures +1/+0 and menace and haste. Like, that's pretty effed up. Like, it's a lot of damage. It's so hard to block. In general, though, I think actually all of most of the Signpost Uncommons are like really strong. The black-green one especially is insane.
That one's so good. My God. I love that card.
Yeah, I love it when black-green gets the best one because they've been shafted for so long. And it's always like no real theme. The most recent like theme I can remember them actually having was like big butts.
Yeah, the Nicki Minaj deck. It was so good.
So now you see Skyfisher Spider, which is like the 3/3 reach, EDB, sack a creature, and you get to exile a non-land permanent, and then there's more on top of that. You like gain some life when it dies, which I think this card is actually like standard playable. You can play this as the top end of like a Jund sack deck. It's like a really good card. So the Signpost Uncommons generally pretty good and pretty much tell you what you want to be doing. Like this one tells you want to be self-milling because when it dies, you get life for creatures in your graveyard. So that's always nice. They've gotten really good at the Signpost Uncommons, obviously, but I think these ones are kind of a step above in power level what they have been in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think, like I would keep an eye on red. It might turn out that red is the best color because there's just some pretty solid removal in red this time around.
The uncounterable shatter thing ends up being good because there's always a great target for that. Raised to the ground.
Yeah, I feel like this is an interesting set where shatter and go for the throat are both great.
Yeah.
Which is usually that doesn't happen.
It is those frustrating times where, of course, you have go for the throat, where you're like, sick, this is just the best removal, and then all their best stuff are artifacts. But there were a couple, I think there's a couple cards in the set that have like ward and stuff that are artifacts, so having the incounterable shatter ended up being really important.
I always forget that. I would be the guy paying for that ward anyways. I'd be like, just totally forget
just in
that
case. Yeah, that came up in a pre-release, and I had told my opponent, hey, so by the way, you don't have to pay the ward, so you should untap your mana because that's just not fun.
Nice guy, Zach.
Yeah, nice guy, Zach. They killed my 10/10, but whatever. No, 10, it was an 8/8. Sorry, it's the 8/8 with ward 4. And, but anyway, overall, yeah, I'm excited for this limited format. I think I'm really excited because there are so many competitive events that are happening, and I want to get better at sealed or playing this sealed specifically. Today, I did not do well. I went 0-3 because I got too excited about my pool. I had a Sundering Titan, and I was like, go, make the deck, go. And I got to play it a few times, but I did not win because it turns out if you're playing against someone who isn't playing the same colors as you, Sundering Titan ends up hurting you a lot as well.
I was going to ask, like, is Sundering Titan that good?
It's
kind of big, right?
It's big and it destroys lands. It's just so I still think it's awesome, and I still think it's worth playing, and I will definitely play it anytime I can.
I feel like usually it destroys 2 of your opponent's lands and 1 of yours. It's like the most common.
That's true. That is very true. I almost wish Sundering Titan was in the last set because you could blow up all their dual lands, but but it is fun because one of the retro artifacts. Sorry, Sundering Titan is the retro artifact, but one of the green rares in the set is the 2/7 Unearth, but it lets you play lands from your graveyard. So that's one of my little, I don't know, bingo card stamps of have both of those cards in the battlefield and play your lands from your graveyard, but keep destroying theirs. It sounds like something fun.
But I think overall I'm just going to try and stay open, take some of those artifacts early, and then, see what flows.
Yeah.
And then after that strategy stops working, I'm just going to force Boros because I read that it was the best. And I'm still on my high of Boros in Limited from last format. So maybe I'm just a Boros guy in Limited now. Maybe that's just my thing.
I think you've always been a Boros guy, and you've been trying to get away from it for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
funny
want to admit it. I can't admit it to myself.
Well, it's funny because I like aggro decks, but Boros is like one of my least favorite color combinations. But I like playing I like playing mono red and mono white, but not together very much for whatever reason.
I will say I do like you're saying Azorius aggro earlier. I like when decks are an archetype that is not what that color combo usually is. Mm-hmm. So like Azorius aggro, love it. Big reds like control, like mono red control. Mm-hmm. Always a big fan of that whenever it's available. Obviously, like red black sacrifice, just like totally different than what the color pair usually does.
I agree. So going into standard, I've played a little bit of it, and I think I haven't built one yet, but the Soldiers deck is definitely on my radar as a deck that I'm going to build, and every piece of that deck when I come across it when I'm drafting, I'm picking up all the little pieces because that's what I'm focusing on. That's the deck I want to play the most.
Dude, I just looking through the card image gallery, I have a hard time imagining Soldiers not being tier 1.
It's so...
Like, there are so many payoffs. They went hard. And then you look back and they've been printing good Soldiers for a while. We just never cared because... Soldier was usually like, why isn't this a knight or something?
Yeah.
Why isn't this like a warrior for my party or whatever? And there's just quietly been amazing Soldiers, like even Denek or whatever is a soldier randomly, like Thalia's a soldier.
Yeah.
We have really good white cards have just been Soldiers.
Yeah, all the ones you already play. Brutal Cathar is a soldier. Yeah. Guardian of New Benalia, Sun Gold Sentinel. You have the Soldier Lord from the last set, Valiant Veteran. There's just a ton. And so I'm just looking at it. You have Cathar Commando. And
then they just piled on a bunch of payoffs, like the new Siege Veteran, I want to say it's called. Mm-hmm. Where it's the new Luminarch Aspirant, but it's like Soldier Tribal Luminarch Aspirant as well. Like, you would play that card even not in a Soldier's deck, as we've learned from how good the Aspirant was. So, what you need for tribal decks to be good, you need a lot of options. It feels recently, when we play tribal decks, you have, just enough to get a 60-card deck, and you're playing a couple of craptastic, whatever, crappy one-drops or whatever that you just need to fill out your curve. The Soldiers deck has so many options. It has sideboard options. It's legitimately difficult to choose which 2-drops you're supposed to be playing main deck versus sideboard, or not at all. You're going to be cutting really good Soldiers. The other thing you need, which is usually what's missing, is mana. And they printed Tundra with Upside for Soldiers decks. What the hell is this land? Remember when we were talking about Party and we're like, why are they punishing me for playing Party by giving me the worst fucking land I've ever seen? It's literally you tried to do something fun and cool. F you. You have to pay for this when it enters the battlefield, and it enters tapped, and it can only tap for this. It's whoa. This didn't need to be this bad. And then they went so hard the other way on this Soldier's land, where it's almost, if it's entering the battlefield tapped, you're out of gas and it doesn't matter. That's not going to hurt you. If you have no Soldiers in play or in your hand, what are you doing?
Yeah. The thing is that's funny, that card was part of my sealed pool when at the pre-release, and I was like, fuck, this card sucks. This card's the worst. I hate this card. And then, of course, as soon as I start thinking about a standard deck, I'm like, I love this card. This card's amazing. How great is this card? So fuck, I can't believe they printed this.
I guess the only thing is, if you top deck it. No, because if you have no soldiers, then you don't want the ability anyways.
Exactly.
No, it's just like amazing. It's for this deck, it's Tundra with upside, and they should do more of this because they did this in Lorwyn to really push tribal, and it worked. All the good decks were tribal. I mean, from what I like look back on it and actually play at that time. And I've always remembered that and be like, why don't they keep doing this? Like, they always make trash tribal lands when they know that if they make a good one, it makes the deck viable. Now they've done it. So they've decided pretty clearly, I think, that Soldiers is going to be a good deck.
And I am all about it. So let's go.
And also the ban of Meat Hook Massacre starts to make a bit more sense, too. Like, that would be a really big deterrent for a deck like this. I still think the deck might be good enough to fight through it.
Yeah.
But would people even try it, if, like, meat hooks are everywhere?
Well, you can.
That'd be the concern.
Well, yeah, but you're also playing blue. You don't have to play your, like, Rakdos deck splash blue for counterspell. This deck's already playing blue cards just because. So you just sideboard in your counterspells. Not like that's the end-all, be-all, but still, like... Having a couple of those
aggro decks with blue are nice, which is Spell Pierce in the sideboard.
I love Spell
really,
Pierce.
like,
it's like one of my favorite
shakes
cards.
people out.
Hitting that like turn 3 2-drop into Spell Pierce. Oh, it's just that's the happy place. I love it.
My happy place is when your Spell Pierce costs 2 because of your Thalia. Suck it up.
See, what you have to do is you side out your Thalias when you bring in Spell Pierce.
I see.
Yeah, there you go.
Next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Soldiers I think is legit, and I think there are other aggro possibilities back in play, like with Monastery Swift Spear, you're going to be looking at mono red. I think there's even a version of Soldiers could be mono white if you decide like you just want. There's enough good white soldiers, you could just do mono white.
Well, the reason I would want to be mono white is actually very specific, and there's just one card, and that's Lay Down Arms is what I want to play. Because if I'm playing mono white, or a lot of the aggressive decks, one of the cards I'm worried about is going to be, of course, Shieldred. Shieldred and the freaking, what's that, Flesh Gorger?
Yeah, Phyrexian Flesh Gorger.
Yeah, things that like gain a ton of life is really annoying, or things that are really hard to attack into. And so being able to exile them sounds great. So a mono white deck has a lot of planes, obviously. So I would play Lay Down Arms, even though they get to gain 3 life.
Yeah, I would say that I still believe in Mishra's Foundry as a payoff for being mono white. But
Right. Okay, that's true. That's probably a lot better.
No, I think Lay on... what is it? Lay on Arms?
Lay Down Arms.
That card looks really good. But like you said, yeah, you have to have a lot of planes.
Yeah.
But I believe in Mishra's Foundry. I know it's getting a lot of hate, I think, because it's so much worse than Mishra's Factory. Or
well, no
the
shit.
original was.
Yeah.
But it's like that card was ridiculous, people. It is a bummer that it can't defend. Like, you can't do the block tap to pump itself thing, which I guess is a little unintuitive, and they didn't want it to be doing that. But that was a big part of the other card.
Yeah. Oh well, whatever. I think it's. I like it.
But also, like I mentioned mono red, but I think there's a reason to play mono green now, because mono green got a 1-drop that doesn't suck, and that's going to change everything for like mono green, because that was the biggest problem they had, was they just didn't have any good 1-drops, and they were even a little short on 2-drops after stuff rotated out. And then they have like some of these artifacts, the green-based artifacts like the Simian Simulacrum, are actually pretty good.
Yeah, you're talking about
the
Teething Wormlet, right?
Yeah, Teething Wormlet, which is a 1/1 that has Death Touch, so long you control 3 or more artifacts. And then whenever an artifact enters the battlefield in your control, you gain a life. But if it's first time that ability resolved, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And I think there are enough like artifacts in the mono green aggro deck, with the Rootwire Amalgam as your 2-drop, Simian Simulacrum as your 3-drop. Like this, I don't know if it's the next big tier 1 aggro deck, but I think it has a shot at being tier 1, and I think it's going to be pretty solid like tier 2 for sure. So I think there's just going to be an influx of viable aggro decks now, and it's just like so nice that they got rid of the Meat Hook Massacre to prepare for this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, because I was playing against. I played in like a league just to see what's out there, and this other card, Gwenna Eyes of Gaia, the 2 and a green for the 2/3 mana dork that taps for 2 mana, and then anytime you play a creature with power 5 or greater, you put a +1/+1 counter on it and untap it. And so it was getting into these situations where like they would play, it's whatever, turn 4. They tap everything to play the green, something of vigor. What's the one where the Phyrexian one, you pay Phyrexian mana?
Oh, yeah.
Right, so they play that. It untaps. They play another card
Defiler.
using, the Defiler of Vigor. It was gross. I was like, this is disgusting.
When you combos with this, you're just like playing stuff for 1 or 2 mana.
You play that, it untaps. You play it again. You play another card. Everything gets +1/+1 counters. I'm like, and then that card untaps. Oh my god, it was. Yeah, so it looks good. It looks good. I like monocolor decks as well. So let's go. Let's see all these other things. I'm tired of these 3-colored decks. Let's go.
Yeah, and then I've seen, just like reading that I've seen a lot of people are playing blue-white Urza. So Urza's apparently all over the place. I haven't seen it myself, but
Me neither.
I think it's just like the fun thing to try at the start. I don't know if that really has legs, but it's powerful enough. Like I could see it being fine, but I think everyone's gonna like try to do all the meld stuff first, obviously, and then get a bit more realistic with it and like start cutting the bad meld card, because there's always one bad one, right? So it's like except maybe Titania, both are fine.
No, I think those are the best. Titania feels like the best ones because your land you don't feel that bad about.
Right.
But
exactly. That's the one I'm going to be trying to like make work. But like Mishra's terrible, but the Dragon Engine is good, and then Urza's pretty good.
Urza's good, but
Stone, Weakstone are like
Guess which one I opened in my sealed pool? The Mightstone and Weakstone.
Mightstone and Weakstone.
That's my like least favorite one. Or like, this is just a 5 mana stupid thing. Whatever.
Meteorite or whatever it was.
Yeah. It's dumb. Anyway, that's how I feel about that card.
Fuck that card.
Fuck that card. But anyway, as always, adding a new set to Magic is always a good thing. Always a good thing. I know people have a lot of set fatigue and they're very frustrated by this fact, but you still get a lot of fun out of new cards and playing them, because
I think people would argue like Throne of Eldraine may not have been a good thing, but
yeah, that's true. But is this Throne of Eldraine level? Is this?
I think it's not Throne of Eldraine level, but I think it's really strong. I would guess, just like my gut reaction is, I'm thinking of this as Kaldheim. Where it was like, Kaldheim had a bunch of strong cards that were the best cards in Standard until Kaldheim rotated. I feel like we could have another situation like that on our hands. I don't know what those best cards are, whereas with Kaldheim it was like, oh great, another extra turn spell. That's obviously dumb. Oh look, a big dragon that makes treasure tokens and it's hard to interact with. Like obviously that's good. Oh look, a vehicle that makes 1 billion tokens. It's like pretty well costed. So it was like pretty obvious from day one which were the best Kaldheim cards, and it stayed that way for years. So this time I think it's a little more like, I don't know, there's a lot of really good cards here. Which ones are the good ones? And which ones are like not as good as they look, kind of thing. But I still think we could be in a situation where whatever are the 2 or 3 best cards in this set are like the best Standard cards for a while.
All right. We will have to see. But I think you're probably right that some things are pretty pushed, but not over the top. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm confident that we don't have any Okos in here. And probably we don't have any Bone Crusher Giants either. But
yeah, so
that's about as far as I'm willing to go. I think we probably have some, like I said, some Asika's Chariots floating around here.
Yeah, Asika's Chariot's fine. It's fine. Well, we need to get into some worthless slots after our beer break. But Jeff, my beer is empty, so I think it's time to go get another one. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by listening. But if you want to support the show even more, well, the Patreon is the best way to do that. Plus, you get to vote on your favorite co-host by buying either me a beer
or me a beer. So go to patreon.com/arenaregulars to vote on your favorite host.
Or if you'd rather send us beer emojis than IRL beers, you can join our Arena Regulars Discord channel. The link for that should be in the show notes.
Baby. It's been a while. It has been a while.
What have we got here, Zach?
All right, here we go. So this is from Mascot Brewing Company. It is their Ales from the Crypt. It is a candy sour ale. That's right, candy sour. And it is 5%. On the side, it says lactose about 5 times. So there's lactose in it. And they're using Citra and Cashmere hops. Very excited. There's also something called Phantasm powder, which is apparently grape skin. That's going to make it real nice. I'm excited. I haven't brought a weird sour in a while, so I got to make Jeff drink some weird sours every once in a while. So here we go.
Yeah, candy sour, huh? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's get into our famous Worth a Slot segment.
Oof. This one's a tough one, man. This might be the hardest one I've had to do in a while.
This is really the hardest one. I think most of the time we know at least the first two, and then the last one's kind of a whatever. But this one's tough. This one's a tough one. So, Jeff, would you like to explain our Worth a Slot segment?
Yes, the Worth a Slot segment is where Zach and I make some bets on cards that we think will or maybe will show up from this set. It's not specific in formats. We're generally talking constructed, and I think usually we're talking standard, but we could explain other formats if we so choose. We decided to use a basketball metaphor here. So we have a layup. That card is a card that we believe will certainly see play in the upcoming constructed formats. We have a three-pointer. This one is like definitely powerful enough to see play, but we could see it, not ended up being in any decks because of metagame reasons, stuff like that. Then there's the half-court shot. This one is exactly what it sounds like. It's a long shot. And we would love for it to see play, usually, is why we're picking it, but we acknowledge that it probably won't. Then we round things out by saying the card we think is most overrated and the card we think is most underrated from the set.
Alrighty, Jeff. Who's going to go first?
I almost said baseball metaphor. Because we always make the joke about, like, home run slam dunks. And I was like, it's a baseball metaphor. But no.
We need to bring home run slam dunk back. We haven't said that in a while.
Yeah, I don't know if there is one in this set. But, if we were doing, like, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, we'd be like, oh, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, home run slam dunk.
Duh. All right, Jeff. Who's going to go first? Are you ready? Am I ready? I know what I'm going to say, so if you don't know yet...
All right, let's let you go first.
All right. Mine is fairly dull, and we've already talked about it. So I'm just going to jump right into it because I didn't mention it, but you mentioned it before. But my layup for this Brothers War set is Siege Veteran. 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and then the really big thing, whenever another non-token soldier you control dies, you create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. So not only does it buff up your whole team, but it saves you from board wipes, those pesky, whatever it is. What's that black one right now that destroys everything? Doesn't matter. I'm going to make a bunch of 1/1 soldiers anyway. So play it. I don't care. Anytime, Luminarch Aspirant was such a beating. I know that this is 3 mana, so it takes up a different slot, but there are so many good 2-drop soldiers right now that having it at 3 doesn't feel so bad. And it's already a 2/2, which Luminarch Aspirant, we always said, was a bear with upside. Well, this is, I don't know, whatever a 3-mana 3/3 is. It's that.
Yeah. This is... It feels like when I read it, it was like, this is Luminarch Aspirant stapled to Anax of the Forge. You remember when, like, when Anax, you couldn't wipe the board because you would just leave them with all of these 1/1s? It's the same thing going on here. When I was reading that last line of text, I was like, I kept waiting for it to say this ability only triggers once each turn, because they love to do that these days, and they just didn't put that.
Hell
it's
no.
not there.
That's right.
And the card would still be pretty good if it said that. Yeah, no. This is exactly what your deck wants. Obviously, the ability is a little less powerful on a 3-drop than a 2-drop, the Aspirant ability. But it's still really good. Like, comes down and buffs something immediately.
Yeah.
So it's like haste damage on that counter.
And it's still on your combat step and not at the end of your turn.
Yeah.
Like they changed Luminarch Aspirant for Alchemy to be different. So, so awesome. I would just be baffled. Like, we're talking about there's going to be a soldier deck. This is definitely going to be in that deck. Like, I don't see why you would not. This is one of the reasons you play the deck. So it's got to be in there.
Ridiculous card. Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
You hear me? Ridiculous.
Seeds veteran. Home run slam dunk.
Yeah, and the one thing you often did with
Luminarch
Aspirant is, like, you would untap and then kill whatever they put the counter on to get rid of the counter, and then try to kill, like, the Aspirant. But it doesn't really work now because they make the 1/1 if you kill the other thing. So it's like, part of Luminarch Aspirant's problem was, like, I could always kill whatever thing you decide to make bigger. If you invest too much in the Aspirant, I'll just kill that. So you always try to spread the counters around. And this is, like, even more, I want to kill that, but I have to kill the thing that's huge because it got all the counters. But then now you even get a 1/1 if I do that. It's, like, even more punishing. Yeah, very good card. I think there are a lot of options I had here for... Now, remember, this isn't most powerful card in the set. So in the end, I'm sort of copping out a little bit to take a card that I'm just, like, absolutely sure we'll see play, because that's what the layup's really about, I guess.
It is.
Rather than taking the fanciest card here.
No.
So, interestingly enough, it's a card that you mentioned previously, and that's Phyrexian Flesh Gorger. So this is a 1 black for a 3/3. Oh, sorry. 7 mana for a 7/5. Menace, lifelink, ward, pay life equal to its powered. You prototype it 1 black for a 3/3 instead of a 7/5. To me, the reason I think this card is just for sure going to see play is, like, it seems like an automatic upgrade over Graveyard Trespasser in all of the black mid-range decks. And Graveyard Trespasser is a pretty good card, but I think unless you specifically want the graveyard hate, like it's a meta for that, you want this card more, because it is still the 3/3 that's hard to deal with. That, like, discarding a card is generally worse than, like, paying life. So you definitely maybe want to be a little more aggro. I still think you probably just replace the Trespasser with this card, though. Like, the fact that it has Menace and it actually has lifelink, it gains you so much more life. Like, it just seems like an upgrade. So since black mid-range is everywhere, this is like a super solid black mid-range card. I kind of expect this to, especially like right away, it's just going to be all over the place because people have the deck, and this is like a clear upgrade. You just do that.
Yeah, it's so strong. I was playing against this card where they play this on 3, and then on 4 they play Rafine and then hold up for whatever. And when this attacks in and you're just putting more and more counters on it, like,
oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
There becomes a point in the game where, like, you can't target it because you're gonna die. Right. So
yeah,
it is a beating if that's where you're putting your counters, because you're just really not worried. You know, you're gonna 2-for-1 them and gain a butt ton of life. Like, this card is kill on sight. It doesn't die to go for the throat. It's so strong.
And then there's just going to be mid-range battles where in the late game you just play this at 7, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just you're gonna top deck it, and you're like, oh great, here's a 7/5. If you want to kill it, you have to take 7 damage.
Yeah, and you probably die. So it's so strong. I was originally thinking this might have been one of my like overrated cards. No, it's so good. It's appropriately rated. It's gonna see play, and it should, because it's bonkers. So worth it. Worth the slot, definitely. Moving on.
I feel like we do these just infrequently enough that I always forget. Do we snake draft these, or do we go back and
It changes every time, I think.
just 50-50, whatever we feel like.
Exactly. Let's get. I'll do another one, because I don't want you to take it. All right. Moving on to our 3-pointers. Wow, I said that really weird, but whatever. So this card I have for my 3-point shot is a card I think that you would play in a deck that you really like, because I played a version of a deck that you really like that I don't know if you would ever build, but it was really interesting, and I kind of wanted to hear your take on it. But this is the card. All right. 3-pointers. It is Mishra's Research Desk. So this is a 1-mana artifact that says, pay 1, tap it, sack the desk. You exile the top 2 cards of your library and choose one of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. It also has Unearth for 1 and a red. So this card very specifically is good in the Anvil decks, because it's similar to playing, like, it's a little bit more expensive, or I guess it's twice as expensive, but as like the experimental synthesizer, except for you have a longer window of time to play the cards you get off of it, and being able to play it again from your graveyard and do that has been so helpful. So I was playing like an Anvil deck. I played in League with an Anvil deck that had Saheeli at the top end, because I was really interested to see how that would work. And it was playing like one of Shieldred, and it ended up being quite fun, and I did all right with it. I don't remember what my record was, but it wasn't super great. But this card was a house. The amount of cards I could draw off of this and play was just bonkers. Like because you can exile this on your opponent's turn and play the cards on your turn. You can exile it on your turn and then wait till the next turn to play them. So you don't have the problem of like, do I play my synthesizer now? Is it going to get a card I can't play, or am I not going to hit the land drop I want? So it ended up being really great. Playing it multiple times was awesome. And it really helps get around if you're playing against a Shieldred. You can find and like dig for answers without drawing cards, so you don't lose any life. And that ended up being huge. Where I was like, all right, all I have to do is find a Go for the Throat. Let's dig through my deck, but I can do it without drawing any cards. So this card ended up being like definitely 4 of in the deck, and I was like, I like this card. So I want half of this is, I think it's worth a slot, but I want to know what you think. Is it worth a slot in the Anvil decks?
I haven't played it yet, but I love this card. I think this card is amazing. I think you mentioned a lot of reasons to like prefer this over, or like how it might be better in some ways than Experimental Synthesizer, which is obviously a card I love. I think the biggest one for me is that you could play this on turn 1. Like, a lot of the times you had these weird hands in Anvil. It's like Synthesizer, Anvil, like maybe a Blood Tithe Harvester or something, a couple of lands and whatever, a Fable of the Mirrorbreaker, right? It's like, oh, this hand would be so good if I had a 1-drop, and I kind of do, but do I want to run it out on turn 1? Like, I don't know. That's weird. On the other hand, like, you have to use this ability. You can't sack this to the Anvil and get the benefit. So it's different, but I think the choose 2 or look at two, choose one is so good. Because a lot of the time Anvil is really like living on a prayer. It's like, I don't know what's on top of my deck. Let's find out. Yeah, I love this card. And really excited to play it over the synthesizer, and we'll see where I net out because there's advantages to both. But when I first read it, I didn't see the like choose one. I thought you just got both. And I was like, what the hell is this? This card is busted. And then I was like, okay, I knew I had to have misread it because like they wouldn't print. They can't print that, right?
No.
It's like 4 cards that you get.
Yeah, it was interesting. The deck I was playing it in had 4 of the desk and then 2 synthesizers. So I would play them together, and it was interesting to see the different parts of the game where it's like, oh, it's good to have this at the beginning and synthesizer at the end and all that kind of stuff. Another note is that it is colorless, so that if you're playing a bunch of pain lands, you can play this without hurting yourself.
True, yeah.
Because usually your Anvil or your Blood Type Harvester you're gonna have to pay or get hit with some life from your pain lands. But this one helps mitigate that by being like, oh, you can play this one. Don't worry, your Sulphurous Springs you're not going to get hurt on the first turn. So
make sure you tap that Sulphurous Springs manually for it, though.
They fixed it, so I didn't have to worry about that very much. They did a good job of knowing that. So
I lost so many games to that. Oh my god! I'm just like, no, it left me with 3 Sulphurous Springs, and I have like an Anvil and a Voldaren Epicure I want to play. This is bullshit.
I'm gonna die. Anyway,
yeah, great choice. You know what? I committed to every card I want to choose is like, is this an appropriate choice or is this too good? But I feel like that's just like, I feel like the set is so good or has so many good options, but they're all so different that this ends up being like, which ones of these see play is just a metagame thing. Like, how does the metagame shape up?
Yeah.
What ends up being the good decks and the bad decks? Like, what's warping everything? So, yeah, I think my 3-pointer is going to be a pretty good card here. All right, I was saving this as all of these cards I have are for underrated. And then I'm like, oh, is this the underrated pick or is this the card for underrated? So I'm going to go with this. It is a card, obviously, I love, but I think nobody's talking about it, so I think it's underrated. But I'm going to use it as my 3-pointer. This is Transmigrant's Crown. This is a 2-mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw a card equipped for 2 or just for a single black mana. Are you kidding me? Talking about upgrades to the Anvil deck. Whoa. I equip this for 1 black mana, I sack it to my Anvil, I draw a card off that? That's crazy. Should I buy these for my Pioneer deck? Like, this is so good.
You might.
And it turns all of your dorky 1/1s into threats, too. That you don't really want to block. Like,
That's true. So this card has been talked about a lot in the EDH community because obviously people are like, oh, it's Skull Clamp at home.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Skull Clamp was ridiculous.
It's
ridiculous. If they gave me Skull Clamp right now, holy crap, would the Anvil deck be busted?
Oh, well, this is what Skull Clamp was supposed to be until they quote unquote nerfed it and then made it far better than it actually is, or sorry, than it was supposed to be. And so that's why people are kind of like meh about this card right now because they're in the in between. So I'm gonna say, like, I'm looking up the price right now in Canada just so I can.
Should I load up on these? This card's crazy.
Possibly, because I think the EDH community was high and is low now, and those seem to be the people that might be super stoked about it. Let's see. All right, so it looks like here, yeah, it's like $250. So if you're interested in getting this card, maybe get that because I don't know I do like it and I think it's going to be great, but I guess I just think it's so interesting. I just wouldn't really be used to having you be excited about an equipment.
It's an equipment. Yeah, I know.
Of all things, I was like, well, the equipment.
I almost blew past it because I was like, oh, it's an equipment. I don't care. And then I saw draw a card. I was like, wait, hold on. Scroll back.
When it dies?
Luckily, it doesn't have that much text, so I was able to like scope the important point and realize it might be good. Yeah, obviously your mind jumps right to Skull Clamp. It's worse than Skull Clamp, but Skull Clamp was one of the bigger mistakes they've made. So, like, obviously it's worse than Skull Clamp. I don't know. This seems really good to me. I think it's the appropriate, like, for my 3-pointer, because if there isn't a black deck that has a lot of, like, small expendable creatures in the meta, then this card is not good. Like, you don't want to pay 2 to equip it. You want to pay 1. And you need a lot of small creatures that you're going to either sacrifice or, basically you're going to need creatures that you're going to want to sacrifice, because otherwise your opponent just like takes the 3 and can probably deal with it in standard. So it's a little dependent on the metagame, but I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic here that Anvil has gotten a lot of really powerful tools. Like, we haven't even mentioned the Dragon Engine in Anvil, so it's like that deck got a lot of upgrades. It might actually just be a good deck now.
Yeah. Is he going to beat out? It does say draw a card, which usually means something good, but with Shieldred, sometimes it means something bad. That's what I'm going to have.
Shieldred sucks.
But it still kills you. All right. So let's move into our half court / full court shots. I actually think this is kind of hard for me this time around, because for the most part, every card I'm excited about is actually really good.
I know, that was my issue too.
Nothing seems like kind of shitty that seems fun. All of the ones that are kind of shitty don't seem fun to me.
Right.
Or don't even see, it seems like, oh, that's cute, but like it doesn't seem interesting enough to try to get the deck to work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to name any names, but all right. So this card is good and is strong. I don't know if it's going to be part of standard. I hope it is. And we are talking about a lot of like monocolored aggro decks, and I think this is a card that could definitely be in one of those decks. And maybe it's too good. Now that I'm thinking about it, it might be way too good. But in any case, let's talk about Draconic Destiny. So this card might be way too strong, but it's 1 red for an enchantment aura. But of course, I'm going to pick an aura. So that's what we're doing. It said an enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying and haste, and it also has fire breathing, and it's also a dragon. Now, fire breathing is usually pay 1 red. This creature gets +1/+0, but this is pay 1 of any color. But this is the most important part. When enchanted creature dies, you return Draconic Destiny to its owner's hand. So that just means you get to play this forever. And you can have it jump on any dorky little dude. You can put it on that fucking that goblin that I don't like, Goblin Blast Runner. There you go. You could play it on that card and not care. So if you're playing like, maybe it's probably a bigger version of red, but it also triggers Swift Spear. So maybe there's something there. I don't know, but it seems like at least I could play 2 copies in a red deck and be like, this card fucking rocks. Super stoked for it.
Seems like the perfect choice for you. It's like a super powered aura. It may not have a deck that wants it. Like, it's, maybe if there's some sort of awesome Gruul deck, Gruul Beatdown, this could be that kind of thing. For people who are looking at this being like, yeah, whatever, like, there's some precedence here. If you've ever played against Rancor, like, something that comes down and makes any creature a threat and just keeps coming back and makes other creatures a threat is very good. And this makes them literally any creature is super threatening when it has this on it. So this is, 3 mana is a lot. Rancor, a lot of its power came from it being 1 mana. But this is very, very strong. If you're going to play with this card, you should know they can get you by killing it when this is on the stack. That's like the way to get it out from under this, basically. Or to like exile the creature. But generally the way you get out from under it is you target something with it, I kill that target, and this fizzles and goes to the graveyard. So be careful to play it when your opponent's like tapped out, typical aura stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get blown out.
I was going to say that's just, normal things. Or, maybe this isn't a mono red card. Maybe you're playing, blue, and so you can counter their shit because that's the best, where they think they're going to do that. And you're like, no.
Always add Spell Pierce.
Spell Pierce. Fuck you. But this is also a callback to Angelic Destiny, which did a very similar thing. It was more mana, but it hit harder.
Turned them into an angel instead of a dragon, I guess.
That kind of stuff. I think they got like +4/+4 and like lifelink and flying and vigilance or something crazy. But it was like 5 mana or 6 or something. Anyway, but this seems like, it seems fun enough that I'd be really excited. Like it has a lot of power, and it just gives this card advantage that you want from these decks, but it still hits really hard, and it gives you a lot to do with, that part of the game where you have a ton of lands, and you're like, what do I do with these? Oh, fire breathing? Perfect.
Sweet, man. That's a great choice. I was feeling like similar to you, or like all of my choices, I felt like were maybe just too reasonable of cards to really qualify for the half quarter. I was even thinking of Titania. I was like, Titania's just a decent card, but I feel like it probably won't actually make the cut. And I was like, I'm definitely going to try and make it work, and specifically do all the meld thing. So that's what I was leaning on until there's a card you actually mentioned again that I was like, oh, I actually legitimately considered playing this card, and I'm probably going to do it if I get them. And I think it's a half quarter. So here's what we're going with. We're going with Cityscape Leveler. Yes, this is the 8 mana 8/8 trample. When it cast it, or when it attacks, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent, and its controller creates a tapped Power Stone token, and has Unearth 8. Now you might be thinking, oh, obviously he's going to reanimate this. That's not even what my plan was. I literally am just going to put this in my deck. I'm going to mill myself, and when I get to 8 mana, I'm going to bring this back. Like, that's all that we have going on there. But the Titania deck, like you get lands, and you can accelerate some of your land drops through various options there. You might actually just get to 8 mana. And so I'm thinking, like, I was just looking at different unearthed cards to put in my deck that would be like, if they exile this from my graveyard, that's fine. Like, because I milled it, it's like free. I don't want to do the all-in reanimator thing because there's so much good graveyard hate right now that it's like, what do I do if my opponent plays an unlicensed hearse? Do I just concede? Like, I can't beat that. So I really like the self-mill where you get incidental value. Like, it's just a self-mill deck with a bunch of unearth and flashback cards. And it's like, I'm just drawing cards, and if you exile my graveyard, you exile my graveyard. I still have my hand. Like, I got that shit for free. And I was going to try 1 or 2 of these at the top end that I was like, I'll probably end up cutting these, but it'd be so awesome if this is like a reasonable card to play. Where you're just like, haha, destroy that and attack that for 8.
That's sweet. That I like that plan. I think that's great to be like, if I draw it, I have blood tokens to discard it, and it just happens to be like this threat that...
Or Fable.
That's true. It's just a thing that your opponent is worried about that's not even your plan. You're like, how about you spend 2 turns trying to figure out how to get this out of my graveyard while I can keep doing my real plan?
Yeah, and I've forgot it's there.
Yeah, it's a MacGuffin.
And Fable creates treasure tokens and stuff too, so it's not like unheard of that you'll get to 8.
Exactly. It's just like absolutely. I love that plan. That's especially because that's like the bomb in limited. That I just love that you could totally be like, oh, sick, I'll totally play this in standard.
It's gonna be a classic thing I do where there's gonna be like 2 or 3 of these at the start, and then it's going to slowly whittle down, and then eventually there'll be a sad Jeff who clicks the final one out of his deck.
And you're like, no. But hey, I mean...
But it's going to be a great time all of the times that plan actually works.
Yeah.
That's going to be sweet.
It's going to be so sweet. Oh, man. That's going to be awesome.
And like you said, people will side in unlicensed turfs and stuff, and I'll be like, that's actually not that good, because I'm mostly just playing a mid-range deck, and you're wasting a card falling behind.
Yeah. Is your deck playing...
Because I'm still, like, committing to the board and playing stuff. Like, you exile my Memory Deluge that I milled for free. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just, like, still going to play stuff.
Is that Jund? Are you playing Windgrace or no? With Titania?
Yeah, probably Windgrace, yeah.
That sounds sweet.
Yeah, it's probably Jund, so I guess there's no Memory Deluge.
How is that? I mean, like, it could be moist. You could just put it in there for fun.
Moist Jund, here we come.
Yum. All righty. Well, we have some overrated and underrated cards, though. My overrated ones all turned out to be really good, so I've been having a really hard time with this as well.
Yeah, I feel like I have a million options for underrated, but overrated was tough.
Yeah, I think everything seems really You know what? This one's overrated. I got one. This wasn't everyone. It's some people, but the overrated card I'm thinking about is the reprint of Diabolic Intent. This card is from Planeshift. It's 1 and a black for a sorcery. You sacrifice a creature, and then you search your library for a card and put it into your hand. This card isn't gonna be that good, I don't think. Like, the sacrificing a creature at sorcery speed is so much worse than instant speed. Like, so much worse. You don't get any good shenanigans with it, and even when you build your deck and you know what you're going to get and all that stuff, I just think you're going to spend... I just don't think it's going to be that great. I think you're going to spend more time with this card in your hand, and you're not being, I don't know, active enough on the board. Just don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Don't get too excited about tutors, especially this one. Just say no. Say no.
Yeah. I think that's the perfect choice. I wish I'd thought of it. I think this card stinks, and people love it. And, like, the list that inspired my list for the Pioneer event we've been talking about playing, it's actually coming up this weekend, but it played one of these, and that's the first thing I cut. I was like, nope. Because one of the problems with this card is the decks that don't mind sacrificing creatures, like the sacrifice lists that I love to play, they don't have, like, these super awesome cards that win the game. Like, what am I going to get with it? Like, oh, maybe I steal your thing, and then I play this, and I go get, like, a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. That's pretty good, but, like, I don't know. Is that better than Deadly Disputing your thing and drawing 2 cards and making a treasure token? I don't think so.
No.
Like...
Yeah, you... Like, play...
This is really bad.
Yeah, Deadly Dispute or Village Rites, like, being up on cards is better. Like, you just be up on cards. So...
Yeah, Deadly Dispute, you're up on, like, a treasure token, you're up 2 cards, like, just amazing. This card is, like, probably 90% of the time I'd be going to get Fable, because that's just the most powerful card in my deck. And it's like, maybe I get Mayhem Devil, I guess. Yeah, probably I get Mayhem Devil, but it's like, that's pretty good, I guess, but it's, like... This card's not good when I don't steal your creature and use your creature to do it. Like, it's just so slow, and that's just the point. The decks that can afford to pay this cost can't make use of the effect that well. Tutors are really good in, like,
combo
decks with a lot of different... Yeah, combo decks are where they really shine. They tend to be decent in, like, toolbox-based strategies, right? Where you have you need to react to anything you see, and you have a whole bunch of different cards to go get that could be useful in different situations. Like, I don't know. This, like you said, the sorcerer speed kills it too. Now, just wasn't on it, and it, doesn't help its case. The card's like $15 or something at the moment. I was like, there's just no way I'm playing this card. And the list I was copying had like no fables in it. So I was like, all right, well, I know where the first fable's coming from. It's from cutting that piece of crap. Yeah. Excellent choice. Don't craft this card, guys.
No, don't play it in draft. Don't pick this card.
Just you should just steer clear of this card. It's cool when they have like really old reprints that used to be powerful or whatever. Love when they do that.
Yeah,
but that's about all this offers.
Exactly. I like it too. It's really fun in Commander and all those things, but it's just not going to be great in these formats on Arena. Maybe in your Historic Brawl deck, so have one, I guess. But that's it.
Yeah. So my choice for overrated, this is something that I've just been seeing. I was doing some research earlier today, like what decks are people playing? And this deck seems like everywhere. I don't totally understand it, but the narrative I'm seeing is all about over the top. And I'm seeing like over the top is busted, over the top, like best card ever, and bro, like, and I want to like throw my hat into the ring here and say like, don't craft over the top, guys. So over the top is a 7 mana sorcery, 5 red. Each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control, puts all permanent cards they revealed this way onto the battlefield, and puts the rest into their graveyard. Okay, so what are we doing? We're making a bunch of treasure tokens, we're making a bunch of blood tokens, we're making a bunch of whatever, like any way we can to get extra non-land permanents onto the battlefield. Then when we cast this, we get way more like our permanent advantage over our opponents, because every card in our deck except this is permanents. Like, explodes. Like, oh, I get like 20 permanents and you get 4 or something. Guys, it's a 7 mana sorcery. You're playing a deck that's all permanents. Like, I understand that this is very good with Fable of the Mirror Breaker, because that card generates a lot of non-land permanents and it's just a very good card. But don't craft this card, guys. Don't fall for the hype. Don't fall for the hype.
Yeah. I'm so glad you read this card, because I had seen this and people say stuff like that. And as soon as I looked at it, it said 5 red, and it said each player, and I stopped reading and I went to the next thing, because I'm like, nope. Whatever the fuck that is, I'm not about it. So
Zach's just looking at his spell pierces and like, I don't have to worry about this.
No, I'm not playing against this. No, you're gonna be dead by then, or like, you don't want to be playing this. I don't know what red deck wants to be playing this, really. Like, I don't know. Seems terrible.
Yeah, and generally with big sorceries and stuff, you want to defend it with Thoughtseize style effects, or like spell pierces of your own, so you can cast it. But this wants you to have all permanents in your deck, so no. This it might be fun. So if you want to build a fun deck that's like semi-competitive, there we go. This is like this is the perfect let's MTG Goldfish deck here, right? You might actually win some games doing this thing, but if you want like a deck that's going to stand the test of time, you're going to want to keep playing it for a while and actually have a reasonable win rate into the higher tiers. This is not.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing where you see a streamer play this deck that seems really cool, or somebody's playing this deck that seems so fun, it's so different, and I get to show it to whoever on Arena that even these cards can win. It's like kind of, except for in Arena, all the cards cost the same, so why are you spending your resources on a card that's not strong? Where you want you get rewarded for playing decks that can put up a fight. So just focus on those things. And if you happen to get
unless you just love this type of stuff, it's your cup of tea, go for it. But like don't craft it because people are saying it's good.
Yes,
don't do that.
That's very well put. Yeah, I would build this deck if I already had the over the tops that I just found. If they go last in draft, I'll pick it up.
From all the sealed you're doing to practice.
Exactly, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it just happens, and then it seems like a fun thing to try, and I'll definitely try it. I'm not going to use my resources to build that deck, though. Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jeff. Underrated cards. I'm ready for this one.
Okay, don't steal mine. You probably know what it is. So.
Oof. Do I know what this is? I don't even think I have one that's actually underrated. I just want more people to talk about it because they aren't talking about it. They probably are. But let's... you already kind of hinted at it. No. Is this underrated? Whatever. I don't give a shit. Audacity. I love Audacity. Jeff is recording on it right now, but it is a single green mana for another aura. And it says enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has trample. And then when Audacity is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card. So this is basically Rancor. So you were talking about Rancor before. It has this. It has the same text, except for instead of Rancor going back into your hand when the creature dies, you draw a card. Now, there are some subtle differences with the way this card works and the way that Rancor works. Obviously, Rancor is nice because you get the threat back that you wanted, and you always have the aura that's really great. You aren't going to just draw a land, possibly. But the other thing that happens in these aura decks is that sometimes you have a bunch of the enchantments and you don't have any creatures, and so sometimes just drawing cards is better because you need to make sure that you might have more Audacities in your hand that you kept, or more of card B, and you need more of card A, which is creature. And so being able to draw a new card that's fresh and isn't just another aura could be helpful. Also, if people happen to destroy a bunch of enchantments or destroy the actual enchantment, you still draw the card. It's not just the creature dying, which a lot of these cards will say. It's when this card goes to the graveyard, not the creature.
Yeah, disenchanting this is a rough play.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't disenchant it because they'll just draw a card.
Unless you have to because you're going to die. I mean,
yeah.
You need to take away the trample. Maybe you have a disenchant. You got to, but
yeah,
that's tough.
But I am interested in this deck. I'm interested in these either Simic enchantments or Celestia enchantments. Are decks that I've been tooling around with. I know I've talked about Ivy a little bit. I don't know if I leave.
I'm just waiting. It's like, when's he going to
mention Ivy? I know you're going to say that, but there are Celestia enchantment decks already. So having a different aura like this could be helpful, or playing it just slots perfectly in my Ivy deck. So of course I'm going to have to add it and try that one more time. But I'm happy. I'm a happy camper with this Audacity because the great thing about this as opposed to Rancor is that this actually works with Ivy, where Rancor does not, because the copy that you would make that goes on Ivy won't go back into your hand, but it will draw you a card if it's Audacity. So there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, this card's pretty solid. I like when they make auras where, part of the problem with auras has always been that
cards.
You get 2 for 1,
mm-hmm.
and unlike equipment, for example, you get 2 for 1 if they kill the creature, which is what they want to do anyways. So it's unless the aura protects the creature or replaces itself, it's hard to convince me on them. And they've noticed that in recent years and have gotten much better at designing auras that are you actually want to play now.
Mm-hmm.
So I like this, and I like the nod to Rancor. I think a lot of what you said is true. Generally, I think it's safe to say, this is worse than Rancor.
Yeah.
On average, there are situations where this will draw you a creature when you needed one, like you said. But on average, redrawing the Rancor, which is generally one of the better cards in your deck, is going to be better than a random card. But yeah, this is good. If there's an enchantment based aggro deck out there, a green enchantment based aggro deck, sure, why wouldn't it play this?
Heck yeah.
I will say that not getting any real benefit from Jukai Naturalist is a real bummer here.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be cheaper. But.
Yeah. Hey, putting it on a Naturalist, you get to gain life when you trample over them, so that's nice.
All right. Yeah, I'll accept that.
Yeah. It also helps with the message, the what's the one drop that just puts counters on stuff but doesn't have trample? Boom. Sometimes that deck needs more trample.
Yeah. The Generous Visitor.
There you go. Yep, that's right. Generous Visitor. So might have to.
It's true. Sometimes that deck does just need trample. It's like all I have to do is kill the cameo of Transience and I'm fine.
Yep.
Because everything else I can just chump block with my 1/1 construct tokens.
Exactly. So there we go. Audacity. Love it. All right, Jeff. Boy, let's hear it.
All right, I had so many choices for this because, like, I think everyone knows Phyrexian Dragon Engine is good. I don't think they know how good it is. It's not getting the respect it deserves. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff like that. But in the end, I had to go. There was only one real choice here. And this is a card that you pointed out to me. This card is called Blanchwood Prowler. This is 1 and a green for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter on Blanchwood Prowler. This is as close to Satyr Wayfinder as they've given me in years, and I am going to try to make use of that. Not seeing anyone talk about this card in Constructed, but that deck I was talking about earlier that's trying to mill itself and just mill it into value, well, it's because I want to start with 4 of these. So I think this card is good, quite good. It is not Satyr Wayfinder. 4 cards is a lot better than 3, and you generally don't care about the body. So, like, all right, sometimes I'll get a 2/2 if it whiffs. Generally don't care about that, but it also gives me a little bit of hope that maybe we're pushing in the right direction here, and I'll get Satyr Wayfinder back in Standard one day. But you better believe there's going to be some Jund decks. There's going to be some Sultai decks, even though Sultai isn't like a 3-color combo that's supported at the moment. We're going to be doing that with some flashback cards. This guy's going to be at the core of a lot of decks that I build. And I'm excited to try. I almost audibled in Pioneer to a Sultai deck that I was calling 8-Finder. And has 4 Wayfinders and 4 of these. And it plays like dig through times and stuff. And it's just trying to value you through that. But I decided I probably shouldn't bring... I've done this too often where I bring a totally untested Rogue Brew to a tournament and, like, you know, go like 3 and 2 or like 2 and 3 drop or something. And just like, well, that was fun, but I probably should have... I wonder what would happen if I brought a real deck.
Yeah.
So I resisted the urge this time.
Oh, that would have been funny. But it's right. I'm expecting... the tournament that I've never played the format for to go very badly for me, but I'm ready for it. I'm excited. Can't wait. All right, so that is our worth the slots for the Brothers War. Always fun. We're gonna look back on these.
I love worth the slots.
Yeah. We're gonna look back on these when we get to the next set and see how great we did, because we're gonna do great. That's what I planned it to be great.
We do try to hold ourselves accountable for these. So.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever said anything ridiculous, like put a card pretty high that was awful. What we tend to do is like miss cards that were really good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Anyway, we'll have to find out in the future. But for now, let's go to last call. It is time to rate the beers that we drank tonight on a scale of bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. Look at that. This has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently. All the tiers reset every month. Everybody's in different tiers at different times. Depends on how much you play or how much you care about it. And the more I've been playing, the more we've been just doing events. So our tiers look really bad now.
Yep.
So now it's just a fun way to rate beers. So don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are fucking trash. They're horrible. You can't drink them. You have to pour them down the drain. They're half of my home brew this time around, where I have to literally pour out half of my home brew because it's that shit.
So. Oh, that's too bad. Silver beers, 1 tier up from Zach's homebrew. These are beers that are basically just uninteresting. Macro brews tend to worm their way into this category.
Gold beers are fine, but you forget that you've drank them before. But you liked them when you had them, kind of. But meh.
I can totally relate to that. Have I had this? I feel like I've had this, but I don't remember. Platinum. These are solid beers. You would have these again. You'd remember that you had them before, and I was like, that one was good. I enjoyed that.
I like that one. Diamond beers are exceptional. You really like these beers. These are ones you go back to over and over again, and ones that you might bring to a magic night or a tournament, where you're like, hey, you try to give your opponent the beer before they start the game, so they might like you a little bit more and make some mistakes.
Oh, is that our strategy for this Pioneer?
Is that legal? Are there rules?
We'll get kicked out so fast. And they'll take our beer.
No, that would be the worst part.
Mythic is the best of the best. You love this beer. You would travel to get this beer. You'd recommend this beer to basically anyone who would listen.
Have we made our choices for the evening? Because I think I know which one I want.
I'm ready.
Are you ready? All right, here we go. Got the can in my hand. 3, 2, 1.
High Grass.
Ales of the Crypt.
I brought the can down, so I don't have it.
That's totally fine. Wow. All right. Let's. We split it. I was kind of expecting that to happen, but let's hear your reasoning for High Grass. Why was this your favorite?
High Grass was pretty good. I was being super cognizant of it while I was drinking, so I have my thoughts in line. I did get lemongrass and a little bit of ginger. And definitely that herbal like tea aspect that you were talking about. It was, in my estimation, like fairly easy drinking just with those notes. So I think I was asking that it's not too harsh on those, but they're still there. I think they did hit that balance. Weirdly, the part for me that wasn't there was the Saison part. It didn't really taste like a Saison to me. It tasted almost like a lager or just a basic like ale that's been thrown, that these ingredients have been like steeped in or something. Generally, a Saison has a little bit of funk to it from the like wild yeast fermentation in like a farmhouse kind of thing. You know, that's like what I always think of with the Saison is like someone in the French countryside, like in their farmhouse brewing beer, and because it's like hot and weird, you get some interesting flavors, but they still work. I didn't really get any of that with this, so doesn't necessarily mean it's not a Saison, but I was really hoping for that punch to balance it out a bit. At this point, it was just kind of like a light beer that has these sort of floral characteristics that I was able to identify, possibly because they told me what they were. But yeah, just hoping for a little more on the sort of funky farmhouse end of things. But the lemongrass and ginger, I thought, delivered fine.
Yeah. I did like it as well. I actually got a weird, like, metallic taste. I don't know if it was from the can or something, but at the beginning of it, I was like, this really feels more metallic and like iron forward than I was expecting. But the ginger comes through, lemon comes through. I definitely agree with everything you said about Saison, but I'm not, Saison for whatever reason is not my favorite. It might be some of the funkiness. They could always be a bit hit and miss, and I did like High Grass, but it just, I didn't like it as much as Ales from the Crypt.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it platinum.
I'm going to say platinum too. I liked it. It's definitely probably the best one we've had from Second Wedge, I think. I was pleasantly surprised. The first, just the iron bit at the beginning, I think might just be a weird can thing. I think the beer itself was good. So yeah, I was happy with that. But Ales from the Crypt, candy sour. This is what I've been missing from sours, is this beer. And and I don't want to talk myself up on ratings because I know where I want it to be, but I do get kind of upset with sours that are too tart and too puckery, you know? And that's what a lot of breweries tend to go straight towards, is just like, add more sour, just make their mouths like turn inside out. And I just don't think that that's That's what I was expecting with the candy sour, because that's what Warheads are like. That's what Sour Patch Kids are like, those kinds of flavors. And this felt a lot smoother and a lot closer to some of the sours I like at Blood Brothers, which has the wine in it, or sorry, the grape skins. And so that's probably why I'm leaning towards it. And the reason you're probably not going to like it is it's because it's juicier than other sours. So I know I took a sip and I was like, I know Jeff's not going to like this one, but I'm going to like it. It's probably one of the better mascot beers I have. Oh God. The more I did it again. I talked myself.
Yeah. I was like, he says that, but he's going to talk himself.
I talked myself into it. If I had 3 more of these, I'd drink them right now. Yeah, so I'm probably going to say Diamond. I like this beer. Oof. Yeah, I like this beer. I want more of it. I will have to remember that that's a good one for mascot.
Yeah, I definitely what you said about like it not coming in as strong on the tartness as I was expecting. That's the first thing I thought. Because I was expecting Warheads, like you said. When you say it's a candy sour ale, like I'm thinking, oh, okay, so this is going to taste like a Warhead. And then it doesn't really at all. It has like a little funky kick, a little bit of juiciness, like you said. So I don't know if that like threw me off or that was a good thing, because I didn't really want liquid Warheads. But it definitely like... I was not expecting it, because I feel like when you call it a candy sour, that's like,
true.
Okay, this is a serious sour. I think the part I didn't like that much was the lactose. I know they said it like 4 or 5 times or whatever, but I definitely notice it. I know that lactobacillus taste, and for me, it had this weird aftertaste that I was just like,
interesting.
I actually think I would like this if it just didn't have the lactose, but then maybe that's what's mellowing it out.
Yeah.
Too. So. I don't know. It definitely has that, like, I don't know. For me, like, no matter what people say, the whole, like, milkiness in beer, I just don't think it's that good. I don't like it. It's like everyone who tries to make banana and beer work. I've never had a banana beer that didn't suck.
Well, that's because bananas suck. That has nothing to do with milkiness. I know what you mean, but I think that I actually like the smoothness of the lactose. Most of the time I get worried because I think that lactose might be bad for my stomach, but this is totally good. So anyway, where did this land for you? How far down are we going to go?
I was going to give it gold.
That's what I thought. Totally. Yeah. What I was expecting for...
Big discrepancy.
That's normally what we get from sour beers on the show. Anyway, it's time for closing time. If any of you want to talk to us about what you think about sour beers and what the best ones you like, Jesus, I'm so not used to doing this. It's been too long. Anyway, if you want to talk to us and talk about how I can't talk... I don't know. You can reach us at Arena Regulars on Instagram and Twitter for as long as Twitter is alive.
You may also find us on MTG Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zulberg. That is Zeulberg. But Jeff, where can they find you?
I'm not going to plug my Twitter anymore. I don't really use it in the best of times. And now that Twitter's in this downward spiral, I probably am never using that account again. Pretty safe to say. So the best place to find me is on our Discord. Join our Discord. The link is in the show notes, and you can find me just posting pretty much any of the channels, and I'll respond to you. I'm regular Jeff in our Discord.
Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and iTunes. Follow us on Spotify and leave us a review there. Any place that you're listening to us right now, just write in what you think of the show, as long as it's good. If it's bad, don't leave us a review. Just go away. If you don't like the show, you probably didn't get this far, so whatever. Anyway, we really appreciate those, and it helps us a lot with the podcast and getting it to grow. So yeah, this has been the Arena Regulars,
reminding you that diabolic intent sucks.
Good night. All right, that's fine.